Hey guys, autofanatic here. I'm going to do a quick maintenance video that is GT350 S550 Mustang specific regarding the Ford Performance oil separator kits for the driver's side and passenger side of the engine. Like I said, I'm going to just show you guys. I did an install video a few months back of the passenger side. The driver's side was on back order. I'm just going to move the camera over in a few minutes. I'm going to show you a couple little tips on installing that one, and then we're going to open them up and I'm going to show you how I clean them out every so often, and why I feel this is one of the most mandatory modifications and upgrades you could do to your 5.0 or 5.2 liter motor almost immediately when you buy the car. This car has not been tracked yet. This has been a street driven, daily driven car for a year, and I cannot get over the oil accumulation in this canister and in the driver's side canister. And I'm going to open them up and I'm going to show you guys how I clean them out. And like I said, this is an engine that is pretty much living in its 5,000 to 8,000 RPM band all day long. We had a really long winter, a lot of slipping and sliding and going crazy in the snow and ice. And that's probably why there's a lot of oil accumulated in here. So before I cleaned it out, let me just grab the camera. We'll shoot a video of this to show you guys how I do it. And you guys can kind of do it whatever way you want. But I pretty much show you in a couple of minutes. You can just knock these things out, clean them out, put them back together, and you're good to go. So I'm going to move the camera over to the driver's side, and I'm just going to explain to you how that oil separator mounts, and then we're going to go into the maintenance of removing both covers and how we're going to get this one off, because there's a little step that I want to show you guys on how to make this a lot easier for you guys to do. Alright guys, we're over on the driver's side, and I just want to show you guys a little bit how this particular oil separator mounts. So it's got three mounting points. It's got one here that's going to use the existing stud that is already in there from the factory airbox, and you're going to just put a little lock nut over that. Over here there's an arm that goes underneath the strut tower bar, and it uses these included push pin clips. And then there's one over here. Now the one thing that I deviated from the install, just because I felt like it, there's insulation, as you guys can see here. You have to trim a little section back so the arm could actually sit flush against the metal of the car. And instead of using the push pin, I have a bin of standard push pin clips, and these are a little bit longer and they seem to anchor a little bit tighter than these. So what I did, once I trimmed this back, I anchored it using one of these push pins into the shock tower on the driver's side. Now, when you put the top lid on with all the Allen keys and the hose, there's a little bit of tension on there. And that's just because of, I think, the tolerances between the way these hoses are made. This hose could be like a 1/16 of an inch shorter and it would alleviate all of that. But what I did, I took the heat gun and I heated up this bar here, and I just got it warm, and then I just kind of tweaked it a little bit, and it relieved almost all that tension on here. And I'm going to show you guys when I take this off, how simple it is to do. Now, before we take anything off and I work under the hood, I place a magnetic tool screw fastener holder somewhere under the hood. So in this particular case, I'm going to place it over on the shock tower. Just because when I remove the screws here, any screws on the car when I'm working on it, I don't want to drop them, I don't want to lose them. These things are cheap. You can buy these in a set of 3, all different sizes. Harbor Freight, Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you want to go. Alright guys, we're back. So to take the top cover screws off, I use a 5/32 T-handle Allen key. And we're just going to do one at a time. And each one is going to get placed in the magnetic fastener holder that is stuck onto the shock tower on the driver's side. So it's just great because if you drop these screws, there's a good chance you're probably not going to have them laying around in your hardware bin. I know I would, but a lot of you guys probably wouldn't. And I don't think Ford is going to sell you just a set of screws for this. They're going to probably sell you the whole car. Right. So there we go. So what I pretty much do is that I just make sure there's not too much tension on the hose, and I'll just keep it like that. Okay? So I don't have to disconnect the hose on this side. You don't even have to do it on the other side. So that's what I do, just to keep it out of the way. And already I could see, okay, you guys see my finger? I just dipped it in there. There's about 3/8 of it, no, probably about a ½ inch of oil in there. It's April 9th, 2018, and you guys could see there's a good amount of oil in there. The last time I checked this was the middle of January. Okay, so now we have February, the month of February, the month of March, and 1 week in April. And I can't get over how much gets accumulated in here. And what I usually do, you know, you can go crazy by removing this whole thing from the car and, you know, bringing it over to your parts cleaner and cleaning it all out. But what I just do, I take some Scott's shop towels and I stick them in there and I let it all soak up all the oil. And usually takes a couple of minutes. Okay, you guys can see that there. Let's see. So we're gonna let the towels soak up everything, and it usually takes like anywhere between 3 to 4 towels, and it makes good sense to have a cardboard box or a plastic bag on hand so you could take this when you're done and throw it in there to discard it so you don't drip it all over your driveway or all over your engine compartment. I got my plastic bag here. I'm gonna pull it in, throw that in there. Now, this is the second round. And usually the second time, you know, if the first batch of rags soaks everything up, the second time we'll get everything. Okay. And then the one little step I do, I'm going to show you guys. I take a little Prepsol pre-cleaner, auto body supply stuff, and I saturate one more towel just to get all the remaining residue out of there. I mean, you don't have to do this, but I just like to do it. Okay. And that just ensures, you guys can see that on the towel, you're going to get everything out of here. And if there's any dirt or debris that gets thrown up into there, you're just going to make sure that it's clean as a whistle next go around when you clean it. So being that this engine is so high revving, tight tolerances, very high compression ratio, this thing is shooting a hell of a lot of oil through the breather on both sides of the engine, and it's catching them into here. If you guys choose not to do this upgrade, a lot of that oil is going to get sucked into the intake. It's going to get into the throttle body assembly. Eventually it's going to mess the throttle body assembly up. This is very common on a lot of high performance cars, even on the GM LS motors. Very, very common on the Corvettes. It actually happened to a friend of mine who was racing his Z06. It sucked in so much oil through the intake, and it required the whole top half of the engine to get taken apart and cleaned out. It was a total disaster. So this is something that you don't want to deal with. And, you know, for the $300 that these things cost you for the kit, it's just going to save you a hell of a lot of headaches along the way. Remember, we own these cars. These are not leased cars. You can't lease these cars. So, you know, spend a little bit of money, take care of them, a little preventative maintenance, and that's pretty much all you need to do. So, this one is done. Okay? And that's it, guys. So, it only takes a couple of minutes, and, you know, you just button it back up. And I pretty much check my oil every week, and I've been checking these, what they call catch cans, I guess you want to call them. These oil separators, I've been checking them every 2 months, and you guys could see what's coming out of them. So they work. I got a bunch of emails asking me if they work. Yes, they do. And as far as the torque spec on these Allen head screws, you just want to snug them up. There is a O-ring gasket that seals both halves, so you don't want to kill it. Okay, just snug it up. Okay, and we're done. Now the passenger side is going to require one extra step, and I'm going to show you guys why. And it's not a huge deal. So the driver's side's done. Remember the steps I told you. Trim that insulation. If you want, use a longer standard push pin to go into there. If this is giving you hard times lining up with the hose, depending on the hose quality control, take the heat gun, heat this up, manipulate it just a little bit until you get it where you want and there's not a lot of tension. Pull the 4 screws off, push it over, wedge it in between here so it doesn't move, clean it out, put it back together, move on to the other side. So we're gonna move over to the passenger side now. All right, guys, we're over on the passenger side now. I just moved my Ford Racing fender mat over to that side. I have my magnetic hardware holder here. Now, the problem you run into on this side is this coolant hose, okay, right here, doesn't let you get to that screw over there. So what you need to do is you need to take the 2 10mm screws off the overflow tank, and you got to move those off. And I just use a 10mm on my Makita. Okay, so if you guys could see this on camera, now that this is out of the way, you could get to this bolt right here. And that's what we want. So, same procedure. We're gonna go one by one. And these magnetic hardware trays are absolutely awesome. I really think you guys need to get a set. They're very cheap, and they're going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. Okay? And I'll put a list of the tools required to do this job in the description. And like I said, a lot of these oil separator kits are on back order constantly. You know, you can get them from Summit, Amazon, a bunch of different vendors out there, but just make sure that they have them in stock. And it definitely makes sense to do both of them at the same time. All right, so I'm gonna just move things around here and then we're gonna clean this guy out. Okay, and we got the cover off, and you see my finger? It's covered in oil. There's about 3/8 of an inch from the bottom oil on the passenger side. And that's just what it is. And we're going to do the same procedure. Just throw some shop towels in there, soak it up. Okay, you guys could see that. Yeah, it's nasty. Look at that. Okay? This is why you guys need this. Go back in there again. And it also makes good sense to have gloves on. A pair of nitrile gloves. You don't really want to get this stuff on your hands and have it soak into any cuts that you have. Like I have a lot of cuts on my hand. Okay. We're gonna get the pre-cleaner. Okay. This is just gonna get any of that residue out from under there. And it's perfectly clean. So there you go. Look, there's nothing. Gone. So, I mean, it just takes a couple of minutes. And then this guy just pops right back in. You know, I usually like to set one screw just to keep the lid in place. And FYI, the screws are not magnetic, so don't rely on a magnetic tool to hold them in place. You will lose them in your engine compartment, trust me. Okay, last screw. You just move the overflow tank over. Okay. Okay, snug those up. And now we're going to put the overflow tank 10mm bolts back in. We're going to lightly zip them on. And you don't want to kill it because, like I said, it's plastic. You could break it. So when you're done, if you touch anything with some oil like I have over here, just grab a cheap microfiber towel. I'm going to discard my gloves and, you know, just go over it. I have a little Chemical Guys VO7 on this towel, and you could just go over anything that you may have dripped or touched with your gloves while you were cleaning it out. And that's it, guys. So hope you liked this quick video on the Ford Performance oil separator kits. Highly recommend them. If you have a 5.0 Coyote, you have a 5.2 Voodoo motor, you got to get these things immediately. I just can't get over, you know, how many times I clean these things out already. And if you don't clean them out, this thing is going to fill to the top and possibly suck it right back into the intake. And that's something that you really don't want to have happen on this car, or any car for that matter. So these are a must-have. They're OEM, fully warranted, will not void your warranty. They look good, easy to put in. Just watch that little modification I mentioned on the other side, make your life a little bit easier. And they're a piece of cake to service. So any questions, comments, post them below. autofanatic@yahoo.com. See you guys soon.